Hello everybody, Jonathan Pulley here with West Coast Weather. Today is April 13th, and we're going to talk about this upper level low that's starting to bring some showers and isolated thunderstorms to parts of California. This is also spreading moisture up in Oregon that's going to lead the potential for some severe thunderstorms, even with a low risk of maybe a brief tornado and some large hail and some isolated damaging wind gusts up there. Most of this should stay south of Portland, but some upper level clouds may make it in the parts of western Washington, which could make some of the high temperatures be a little lower than forecasted. Then this upper level low is going to start moving south and east over into Southern California, into the southwest United States over the next day or so. And then that will bring a severe weather setup over into the plains, the central plains over there east of the Rocky Mountains. So it's pretty cool to see how our weather systems here on the West Coast can even affect other parts of the country. So I'm always fascinated with that. And then it looks to be there looks to be a large ridge of high pressure that builds into over the West Coast all the way up into British Columbia as we go through the late half of next week. That's going to bring warmer temperatures and beautiful weather as well, and a potential for some pretty hefty, very high temperatures for parts of Southern California and Arizona, with high temperatures approaching well into the 90s, and some models are even showing some isolated hundreds in some of those desert locations down there. So definitely a pretty prolific warm up coming up. So without further ado, let's get right into the forecast. Now looking at the general ridge and trough positions on the European model, here's California, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, here's Hawaii down here. Here's our pretty strong upper level low that's kind of been cut off from the main jet stream. So this is going to be bringing that moisture up into California and Oregon for those potential thunderstorms and some potential for some isolated damaging winds and large hail, and maybe some funnel clouds or a weak tornado up there into Northern California and Oregon. I'll show you the Storm Prediction Center's outlook for that. But as we play this through, you can see that this upper level low kind of weakens and then kind of ejects itself all the way through the southwest United States over the next couple days or so. This will then strengthen again over Colorado and Wyoming and Four Corners area before bringing a severe weather setup to places like Kansas and parts of the Midwest out there. But then we have this another weak trough tries to move down out of British Columbia, but kind of just clips the Pacific Northwest. This will bring some isolated showers on Monday and in the early on Tuesday for up there. It's also going to bring some gusty winds as a bit of low pressure forms over the Canadian Rockies, and this will cause a pressure gradient, an east to west pressure gradient over the Washington Oregon Cascades, bringing some pretty gusty winds to parts of the Cascade Mountains and also eastern Washington, parts of eastern Oregon, and down the Strait of Juan de Fuca, affecting parts of Whidbey Island, the San Juan Islands, and some of the Puget Sound could get on it, but they should be mostly protected down there. That trough kind of moves off before we get this pretty strong ridge of high pressure that kind of just sits over the region as we go through later next week and the next weekend, and most models are showing this, so there's pretty high confidence in this scenario before potential for some storm systems hitting the Pacific Northwest after that. Now looking at the 6-hour precipitation type in inches on the European model, you can see our upper level low moving over California, bring that some very beneficial mountain snow to California. They're completely out of drought. It's pretty crazy after the last couple of years where it was looking like they're going to be stuck in drought forever, and now they're completely out of drought and actually have more rain than they actually need. So anything extra this time of the year is very beneficial down there, though, even after a very wet, rainy season. So that upper level low will continue to bring some showers as we go through later on Sunday, but most of that precipitation will be moving out into Utah and the Four Corners as we go through later on Monday and the Tuesday. Then we can see this weak trough starting to influence the region later on Tuesday evening, with some gusty winds starting to come across the Cascades and down some of those waterways and the Strait of Juan de Fuca and the Strait of Georgia, bringing some light mountain snow to the area as well. There's going to be potential for a convergence zone on Monday for parts of the North Puget Sound. Really not expecting that much with that. There's not much juice and moisture with this system to really have much of an impact there everything from both of those systems looks to move out as we go through later on Tuesday evening all the way through the rest of the week. And then we get that big warm up with the high pressure building over the region. Now looking at the lightning flash density, or basically where the model thinks there's going to be a thunderstorm, you can see these really bright colors start showing up from all the way from western Montana all the way through central Oregon. And you can see where these reds are. That's showing the potential for some severe thunderstorms later this afternoon, evening over central and eastern Oregon. These will move east to west over the Cascades, and potential for some of the Willamette Valley to get in some of this lightning action if these thunderstorms are able to maintain themselves as they go over the Cascade crest. And then you can see later on Sunday as well, there's potential for more thunderstorms for eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, extreme southeastern Washington, parts of the Idaho Panhandle, and parts of Montana. And then the thunderstorm risk for California starts moving down toward just north of the Los Angeles area, including the Los Angeles area too. And then you can see that there's not really going to be as much thunderstorm fuel on Sunday, but there's still a very isolated chance of a severe thunderstorm out there in eastern Oregon if everything lines up right. And then most of that activity starts moving east because of that upper level low that starts moving into the central plains. Now looking at the storm predictions, so you can see that they have a marginal level 1 risk of severe weather over the central Oregon area, and clipping in the northern California as well. There's also a general thunderstorm risk going all the way into the Bay Area down towards Santa Barbara and Ventura counties down there. And we can look to see what probabilities. You can see that they have a 2% level 1 tornado chance as well. So there is an isolated chance of a tornado out there. Probably wind and hail are going to be the main risks with that, but the tornado is an extra thing on top of all of that. And you can see that they have 5% chances out there for wind and hail. So just be weather aware if you're down there in central and eastern Oregon and northern California. Now taking a closer look at Washington, Oregon, here's Vancouver, here's Vancouver Island, southern BC, here's northern California down here. You can see this is what the radar may look like according to the HRRR model. And you can see that these thunderstorms erupt along the Cascade Crest as we go through later this evening. And then a couple rounds possibly as a couple more impulses of moisture kind of move east to west over parts of Oregon. And then you can see a lot of this activity starts going south over California as that low pressure system starts moving east and south of the region. And then you can see the renewed thunderstorm potential later on Sunday as well. Now taking a look at the NAM, we can see this is the surface-based CAPE, or basically thunderstorm fuel, how thunderstorm fuel is measured. And you can see as we go through this afternoon, as that sun starts shining on the ground, you can see that a lot of instability in the atmosphere starts building up. And this leads to plenty of energy for thunderstorms to grab onto as they form later today. And then you can see this build up again, but you can see it's a bit weaker and less of it as we go through Sunday, which is why the severe weather threat kind of goes down as we go through Sunday. And then that moves east. Now looking at the NAM, this is the NAM 3KM. This is the composite reflectivity again. You can see it has even more intense storms than the HRRR model, showing these potential severe thunderstorms forming over northern California and south central Oregon. And then these kind of move north and then west over the area. And you can see some of these start approaching the Willamette Valley. We're not sure if they're actually going to make it over the mountains without weakening or not, but they'll likely mostly stay east of the mountain crest. Now looking at the HRRR, this is 10-meter wind gusts. You can see some of these gusty winds with potential for some gusts over 40 to 50 miles per hour with those thunderstorms in Oregon later today. And then you can see as we go through later on Sunday, this is Sunday afternoon, you can see the surge of westerly winds coming in the Strait One to Fuca as this east to west, west to east pressure gradient sets up, and those winds kind of try to find a gap in the terrain, which the Strait One to Fuca is a very large gap in between the mountains on Vancouver Island and the Olympic Mountains. So this kind of flushes the wind all the way through and hitting Whidbey Island, parts of the San Juan Islands, Port Angeles and Port Townsend down there. But you can see some of these winds are also increasing in the mountain gaps with some gusts maybe approaching 60 on some of those higher peaks as well. And there's going to be some gusty winds possible in the Columbia Basin as well, with some gusts approaching 40 to 45 miles per hour for some locations. Now taking a look at California, this is a composite reflectivity on the HRRR model, and you can see that there's already the frontal system associated with this low pressure system has already moved through this morning. But you can see these showers and possible there is a chance for some isolated severe weather in California as well, but it's less of a threat than up in Oregon. And you can see the HRRR shows this pretty strong band of squall, a pretty strong squall moving just south of the Bay Area, just south of San Jose as well. There's going to be potential for some gusty winds, maybe some small hail, maybe an isolated funnel cloud as well with this activity before it starts moving south and east as we go through Sunday, affecting parts of the interior locations. There's also the potential for some isolated flash flooding issues as we go through later tonight as well for parts of the Los Angeles area, Ventura and Santa Barbara counties, as some of those showers keep training over the same areas and going into those coastal mountain ranges down there. Now looking at the 10-meter wind gusts, you can see that there's going to be some gusty winds over California, especially in the Sierra Nevada as this low moves through. It's not the main threat at well, but you'll definitely notice the wind kind of kicked up, especially as those showers and isolated thunderstorms start moving through. And then you can see the winds start the strongest winds kind of start moving east as that low pressure system moves east. Now looking at the tilt precipitation over the next couple days with this system, this is on the HRRR model. You can see some of these mountain locations in the northern Sierras of Northern California with some 2 to 3 inch precipitation amounts starting to show up for some of those areas. And you can see some of these coastal mountains showing the potential for those isolated flash flooding issues. And the National Weather Service Weather Prediction Center does have a marginal risk for some excessive rainfall down there for some of those coastal mountain ranges near west and north of LA. So definitely watch out if you're living down there, because there's potential for 1 to 3 inches of rainfall. Now taking a look at the national Blenda models, this is a daily max 2-meter temperature, and this is looking at the wide view of things again. You can see high temperatures are going to be suppressed on Monday as we get that cold front moving through, with only highs in the 50s for the Willamette Valley and the Puget Sound in southwest BC. This is Fahrenheit. And you can see that if we go back to today, Sunday actually, you can see that there's going to be potential for some high temperatures over 80 degrees in parts of the Columbia Basin out there in eastern Washington and northeastern Oregon as well. So definitely a very warm day down there. But then that cools off into the 60s out east as we go through Monday and Tuesday. But then as this ridge starts building in, we can see the temperatures starting to increase over California, with some temperatures approaching 80 degrees and getting over to 80 degrees during the middle part of next week. Maybe some temperatures in the southern central valleys of California approaching 90 degrees down there. So some very warm temperatures, with temperatures around 10 to 20 degrees above average potentially. And you can see that Puget Sound even starts getting above 60 and even 70 degrees for parts of Seattle and Portland metro areas as we go through later next week. And this could be a prolonged warm up before some more systems move through. Here's a a graph from the National Weather Service of Spokane, Washington, showing the warmer temperatures Saturday and Sunday today and tomorrow. High temperatures in the low to upper 70s, potential for some 80s down there in some of the southern parts of the Columbia Basin, and mostly sunny as well. There's also going to be some gusty winds out there for parts of the Columbia Basin, so watch out for some choppy waters on those lakes and hide in grass fire conditions and patchy blowing dust. Now looking at the National Weather Service of Pendleton, Oregon, this is the isolated severe thunderstorms possible today and tomorrow. You can see the main risk is today, with that marginal risk over places like Maupin, Condon, Fossil, Prineville, Bend, Oregon, and Redmond down there, all the way down to Silver Lake and Chemolt. And then you can see that it starts slightly moving east on Sunday, with a less chance of severe weather, but still some potential for some thunderstorms over southeastern Washington, eastern Oregon, and the Idaho Panhandle. Now looking at the chance, some lightning safety tips from the National Weather Service of Pendleton, Oregon. Lightning can strike from up to 10 miles away, so if you see those dark clouds approaching, make sure to stay very close to a shelter and make sure to get inside. If you hear thunder, make sure when thunder roars, go indoors, as the National Weather Service likes to say, and also there are others saying, see a flash, dash inside. Now looking at those thunderstorm chances from the National Weather Service of Sacramento, California, showing those thunderstorm chances for Northern California and parts of the Bay Area moving out east towards the Sierras. Small hail, lightning, brief heavy rain, gusty wind, and potential for some funnel clouds. And this is most likely time frame is today, this afternoon, and into the evening. Now looking at the National Weather Service of Los Angeles, California, you can see some potential for 0.5 to 1.5 inches of rain for most of the area, with 1.5 to 3 inches of rain for the mountains and foothills. 10 to 20% chance of a thunderstorms with a very low risk of a severe thunderstorm or tornado. Southwest wind gust 25 to 50 miles per hour on Saturday as well, with that decreasing the west winds 20 to 40 miles per hour on Sunday as well. There's also going to be some light snow in the mountain peaks as well. Now looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, this is from April 18th through the 22nd. You can see that the above average temperatures are being highlighted for the west coast as that ridge of high pressure builds over. Also below average precipitation expected during that time frame. 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, this is for April 20th through the 26th, and you can see that the potential for that ridge to start moving eastward, but still above average temperatures are being favored during this time frame, and there is potential for some moisture to start moving into the west coast during this time frame. So the below average precipitation isn't that high of a chance, and this could switch to slightly above average to near normal as we go through later in the April. So still plenty to look at, and plenty of warm weather on the way. Well, that's it for this forecast, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great day today. Get out there and enjoy some of that sunshine if you're living in southern British Columbia and Washington. Make sure to keep out an eye on the skies down there in Oregon, and especially eastern Oregon, south central Oregon, as there's potential for some severe thunderstorms today. Also California as well as those. As the skies start clearing behind that cold front that's moving in right now, make sure that still be prepared for some potential for some isolated thunderstorms as we go through later this afternoon and evening down there. And then we get that warm up as we go through later Wednesday and into the next weekend potentially. But that's also after that a weak cold front that moves down Monday and Tuesday over western for Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, bring down those temperatures for a couple days. But I just hope everybody found this video enjoyable and informative. Just please hit the like button, subscribe buttons down below this video. Helps get the algorithm to push my video out to more people, and it's very much appreciated. I hope everybody's having a great day. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to y'all in the next video.